very hard in Active Directory environments, and just in large networks in general, when you make a change to understand the implication.
Kind of taking this up to a higher level, we've talked a little bit about the lack of information, the lack of expertise. Are there any kind of common reasons when you go into these organizations or trends that you see, dynamics or culture that kind of lead into these situations where ADCS is either overlooked or misconfigured?
Part of it is at least kind of the siloing of like identity and everything to those teams, right? Kind of you had mentioned to where, ADCS gets lumped into just like the identity team or maybe the AD architecture team or something. And if there's not enough kind of interplay between security teams, and we see this with Active Directory as well, not just ADCS, to where if there's not enough cross-pollination between security teams and those other teams, then these issues can potentially be overlooked. Or, if places have never tried to assess, if they've never done like a PKI assessment or something like that, they just might not have the idea of what the actual issues are. So I think that's at least part of it. I don't know if anything else, Lee, you might add.
Yeah, I'd say there's probably two things that I'd want to mention. One is surprisingly, lots of vendor documentation has led to these vulnerabilities being present in environments. So several products out there have suggested enabling these SAN settings, these subject alternative name settings, that can lead to a very insecure state of PKI. So that's I think definitely something it's complex, and even vendors themselves don't realize exactly what they need to do. So that's one thing. Another thing too is it's very hard in Active Directory environments, and just in large networks in general, when you make a change to understand the implication of that change. What is the security implication of this one setting, or adding a user to this one group? And so, our work with Bloodhound and Bloodhound Enterprise is trying to help surface that too. When you make a change, is that going to allow somebody to escalate their privileges? And that's a very hard question to ask in a default installation of Active Directory. If you add a user to a group, is that going to lead to a privilege escalation scenario? That's hard to understand. And so that's ultimately with our tools and with Bloodhound and Bloodhound Enterprise, this has been our goal, is bringing that observability. So if changes are made, we want to be able to detect that a new vulnerable scenario has arisen, and then bring alerts to that in the network. So kind of bringing this observability to network defenders' eyes.
The point that was made about visibility, though, I think that's a huge part of it as well. And that's one of the reasons why, a Keyfactor, our command platform, is there to give you visibility into what certs are deployed, why they're deployed, to be able to find those anomalies, to be able to apply policy consistently across every cert that's issued, so that you don't get into this situation where even if you have some vulnerabilities or some misconfiguration, if you will, on the PKI, if you're running your own, you can still catch them before it becomes an issue in the organization. And so visibility is a really important part of that, and the ability to detect anomalies, and the ability to be able to get conformity to policy to make sure that you keep yourself out of these situations that present risk.